Hi, and welcome back to Hypershade Tutorials. In today's tutorial, we're going to be making our player jump and implementing gravity to his character controller. So when we jump, it brings us back to the ground, and while we're jumping to play a nice smooth animation. And this is what it's going to look like. So in the last tutorial, we could walk, back, forward, left and right. Now if I hold forward and press space, play the jump animation, like so. If I run and press space, he'll play a different animation. And that's what we're going to cover today. So let's get started. So let's go into our script. So double click on your player movement script. And once it's opened, let's go ahead and define some variables we need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a new public float. And I'm going to call this float jump blend. To blend the jump animation. I'm just going to hit save. Then I'm going to make a new header property. I'm going to call this header, open bracket, speech marks, and I'm going to call this jump. So this will separate our jump settings in the inspector mode. So the variables we want to define in here are public, float, jump speed, and this is going to be equals to 4 for now, should be okay. The next one we need is public, float, jump direction. The one after this is public, float, gravity. And by default, I'm going to say gravity is 30. Then we're going to go public, float, boolean, grounded. This is going to check if we are grounded. Then we need a public, vector 3. Player velocity. Okay. Then we're going to need a public bool is jumping. Comma. Actually, set this to equals false. Then put a comma. Then put is, for my Visual Studio that just crashed, bear with me, there you go, it's back to normal, is running, jumping, seems to be crashing quite a bit, I'm not sure why that is, and this is also going to be equal to false. Closing semicolon, and the last one we need for now is public, float, key cooler, comma, key timer. Okay, we're going to make a new header again, and we're going to call this one running. My apologies, put the 2 speech marks, put running in there, put your closing bracket, and over here we're going to define one boolean, public bool is running equals false. So that's the variables we're going to need for this tutorial. So let's go ahead and crack on with the rest of it. So just above, before I do crack on, we used to put our function in fixed update. You can change that back to update. I will show you why it used to jitter when we used to run. So before we do anything, just change this back to update. Before it was fixed update, like so. We don't need that anymore. Just change it back to update. So the first thing we're going to do, we want to set the grounded variable. So grounded is going to be equals to our player move controller, and there's a setting in here called is grounded, and that's all you have to do. That will tell this variable here if our player is grounded and it's touching the floor, or it's collided with a collider, it will set this to true. If it's not, it will set it to false. Alright, I'm going to set the jumping system up here. So I'm going to put a new comment, and I'm just going to call this jump settings, like so. Firstly, I'm going to say if open bracket grounded and player velocity no, it's here somewhere. There you go. Player velocity dot y, because we're making our player jump on the y-axis, is less than 0. We want something to happen. Open bracket, close bracket, open curly brace, closing curly brace, and inside here we're going to say player velocity dot y equals 0f. I'll explain this in 1 second. And also I want to put is jumping equals false. Now what we're saying here is if our player's y value is less than 0, we want to set it back to 0. So once that happens, it will automatically tell the system that we are on the ground, and it will make our grounded variable go back to grounded. Okay, that's all it does over here. Next, let's actually set the key timers. So I'm going to say if open bracket close bracket key timer, okay, is greater than 0, I want something to happen. Then I'll put two open curly brace and closing curly brace, and inside this all I'm going to say is key timer minus equals time dot delta time, and divide that by 1 and save it. Well, actually you don't need that, just get rid of that. That should be alright. And over here I'm going to say if open bracket key timer less than equals to 0, we want the key timer to remain 0. So open curly brace, closing curly brace, key timer equals 0. That sets our key pressing input, so we can't spam the button. We'll have to press it after the values have returned back to null or 0, so that prevents us from over jumping. Now let's implement the jump itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check for a parameter to see if our key timer is actually equals to 0. So I'm going to say if open bracket key timer is equals to 0, and we want to check is running and jumping equals to false, like so. And we're going to put a close bracket, and we're going to put open curly braces and put a space in between it, because this code's going to go in between here. So now I'm going to say if open bracket input dot get key and open bracket key code dot space, that's our space bar. Then at the end of this bracket here I'm going to put an open curly brace and a closing curly brace. If I press this, I want something to happen. What I want to do is I want to make this variable here is jumping to be true when I press the spacebar. So the first thing I'm going to say is jumping equals true, like so. That would enable our variable to be true, and once its velocity goes back to 0, it will put that to false automatically for us. So that's fine. Let's make the player jump. So player velocity dot y equals plus equals math f dot square root, and notice it somewhere. There we go. Open bracket. We're going to say jump speed, which you defined above, times that by the jump direction we want to jump in, which is obviously up. We don't want to jump downwards, so jump direction, and times that by gravity. And closing semicolon. And at the bottom over here, I'm going to call it animation. Animation reference dot crossfade open bracket animation name open two square brackets. This is animation 7 on our list, the jumping animation, I believe. We'll double check after this. And we want to blend this with our jump blend, so like this. At the end of this, I'm going to say key timer equals key cooler. So that's just going to refresh the key so we can't spam it. So it's going to make the key timer value equal to the key cooler value, and it refresh that and trigger this. And until the key timer doesn't equal 0, we won't be able to jump again. So that solves the problem of spamming the spacebar. Okay. Now the next part is we want to blend the animations, and I want to check for a couple of things. Now what I mean by this is if we're just walking and we're pressing space, I want the normal animation to play, the normal jump animation, and if we're running and jumping, I want the front flip to play. Now again, these animations will be uploaded to my mega upload, sorry. You are free to download them rather than downloading it yourself, and apply them to your character, which you can do. So what I'm going to say here is I'm going to put a comment, jump animation check, okay, and underneath it I'm going to say if open bracket is running equals true, open bracket, close bracket, open curly brace and closing curly brace. I'm going to say animation name, oops, sorry, like so, open square bracket, close square bracket, array number 7, which is our jump. I want to change that animation name to running forward flip. Now this is the animation I downloaded after I did the last video because I didn't like the jump animation I had before. So that's going to be the running animation jump. And the next one is, oops, there you go. I'm just going to duplicate this, and I'm going to say if we are not running, and this equals to false, and we're going to set number 7 back to jump, like so. And jump direction, we also have to amend in here. So I'm going to say jump direction equals, for me, 1.34 float works perfectly. Sorry about that, my brother called and he wanted his coffee, so I had to make him his coffee. No one can say no to Starbucks, eh? Alright, let's crack on. So jump direction when we're running, I'm going to set to 1.34, and jump direction when we are walking normally and jumping, I'm going to put to 0.85. Alright, alright, we're back. Apologies, don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, save your script, and let's go down to the very end of our script where we, not here, over here, in here, that's fine, where we say input dot get key left shift, where we're making the player run. I want to say is running equals true. Okay, and I'm going to do the same for this one here. So if we're running backwards or forward, we want that variable to be equals true. Save your script. Also, we want to say else, if we're not pressing the following keys, we want to return this to be false. So over here, we're going to copy that and put that in here and change that to false. And I'm going to put this exact same else statement underneath this one here, so we have something that looks like that. Now, the final step is where we have our idle animation playing. So I'm just going to quickly put a comment on top of this. Idle animation play, like so. We're going to apply a gravity down here. So I'm going to put another comment, apply gravity. I'm going to say player velocity dot y minus equals gravity times time dot delta time, closing semicolon. And then I'm going to say player controller. So we want to get the player controller now. We're going to get the move function. We're going to open bracket. We're going to say player velocity times time dot delta time. And that will apply gravity to our character. So when we're jumping down, it will eventually make our character hit back on the ground. Without this, it won't function. That's pretty much done. Now, before we do crack on, what's going to happen is when we try to jump, we're going to have a problem. It's actually best if I show you. So let me just save this, go back into Unity. Alright, my script has updated. Let's click back on the player. If you go down, you're going to see a bunch of new variables. And the first one you're going to see is jump speed, jump direction, gravity, grounded, player velocity, is jumping, is running jumping, key coolers. Now I'm going to set the values for these now. So for the key cooler, I'm going to put 0.95. I think that should be enough time to cool down the key so we can't rapidly press it. Then I'm going to set the jump speed. When I was testing this, I preferred 0.7. It was quite a good jump height, or jump speed, sorry. And for the jump height, I'm going to put 0.85. And the gravity, I'm going to put 25 or 20. And save. Let's run the game and let's see what happens. I've got it on pause at the moment, so it doesn't interfere. Okay. Right, there we go. So as you can see, as soon as the game started, you see the grounded variable, it became true. I'll show you that again. So let's stop the game and let's run the game. Right, you see it becomes true. Okay, good. Now if I press space, let's see what happens. We jump up, but if you notice, there's something wrong with the animations. And we want to fix that because what's happening right now, the crossfades are getting confused and it's not letting our jump animation play. Now also, before we crack on, if you remember I told you to change your code and put it into update function. You know this jittery section right now where you can see the player is having this jittery effect? Now that happens because we have the player selected, and because it's linked to our free camera, it's constantly updating the position. So if you click away from that, you should be fine. There you go. Back to normal. And trust me, if you build your game, it'll run as smooth as you're seeing it now. And another tip would be, if you're building your game, I would recommend you have VSync turned on. Because what happens if you turn it off, the player actually walks faster and it misleads you. And I don't want you guys to have that same problem, because I was actually building it and the character wasn't walking as fast. So I was really confused why that was happening. That's because VSync wasn't turned on in the game preview. So you can turn it on from here. Okay, and that will give you proper speed variables. So let's stop the game. Let's go back into our Visual Studios, and we're going to have to encase our animations for the walk, left, right and center in an if statement. So over here in the first if function, where we're saying if we're pressing the W key, do something, I want to encase this animation in a if statement like so. So put if, open bracket, close bracket, open curly brace, and put the closing curly brace under the animation like so. And in here we're going to say is running, sorry, is jumping, equals false, and double and is running jumping equals false. We don't want the animations to interfere when we're making any of these two commands. So if we're jumping standing idle, we want nothing to happen, and we only want the jumping animation to play. And if we're playing the run animation, jumping animation, we don't want this one to interfere as well, so we cross it out and let the jumping animation for run play. So I'm going to copy this first if statement, going to go where each of the animations are, and I'm going to place that there and close them off like so. And I'm going to do the same for the A key. I'm going to lock it. I'm going to do the same for the D key. I'm going to lock it. And for the rest of these ones, we have to do the same. So underneath here, put the if statement, lock it. Same for this, and lock it. Okay. And you have to do the same for the idle animation, otherwise your normal jump won't play, and that should solve that issue. Apologies about that. Right, let's go back into Unity, and that should fix our jump animation system. So a quick overview. If you look at element number 7, that's our jump animation, and element number 8, that's our running forward flip animation. Now what we've done in the script is, rather than calling this animation, we have said if we are running, change element 7 names to the following: running forward flip, and if we are not running and just walking and pressing space, just turn it back to jump. And I'll show you that now, just so you don't get confused. So technically we're not using element 8 at all at this point. So if I press space, you can see he jumps and element 7 remains as jump. Now if I hold shift and jump, and that didn't work for some reason. And let's go have a look why. I'm just going to copy the name from here just to make sure it's exactly how it is. Unless one of these variables didn't work out, so I just need to double check that as well. Alright, so jumping. Is jumping. Right, it's a mix up on the variables of the booleans there. So let's go back into our Visual Studios. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So if key timer equals 0 and is running jumping equals false, which is correct, what we want. If input.getKey.space and is jumping equals false. We also need that in here, please. That's fine. Alright, that works fine. That works fine as well. Is running. So if is running equals true, I want element 7 to be equal. I wonder if I copy pasted that name. Let's do a check. I did. Let's go down into the running animations. Running equals true. Running equals true. Let's save this and go back into Unity and see what happens. Right, so let's run our game now and see what happens. It should work because as soon as we hold shift and press forward, it should change the animation name. So right now it's just standard, which is we're not holding shift, we're just holding the W key and walking. Same with the S and D, etc. As soon as I hold shift and forward, it should change that animation name, but it isn't. And I've noticed the is running animation, sorry, the is running variable isn't becoming true either. Let's figure out what's going on here. Let's stop our game. Let's go back into our script. Right, it's probably because of these. If I get rid of these two, we should be okay. Let's have a look. But then the problem will be if we're running and we just let go of the shift key, we'll still be in the is running state, which I'm pretty sure will happen right now. So if I look at that while I'm running the game in the inspector mode, let's see, I'm holding W, there we go, I'm pressing shift, it changes, the front flip animation plays, and that's where the problem kicks in. As you can see, as soon as I let go of the shift key, because it hasn't got a understanding of what's happening now, it just thinks we're running, so we need to prevent that. So let's go back into our code and let's do one thing. Let's do this. Let's keep one of the else statements over here. That should prevent it from happening, I'm pretty sure. So let's go back into Unity and let's see what happens now. Right, so running forward, flip, let go. It works. What about running back? Yep, it works perfectly, because if you can see, the running variable is changing, and if I let go of shift and forward, it stops. Same with that. Obviously, if you have a back animation running backwards, jump back or something, you can use that. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to go ahead and download that one. So it's running back, he does a flip, running forward, he does a flip, walking normal, he does a jump, and it seems to be working seamlessly. Perfect. Just to show you how smooth that really is, I'm just going to click away from the player and show you. So that's a front flip animation and a normal jump animation. There we go, we can jump over obstacles. So if I do a front flip animation, and voila, I'm outside the stage and it's working perfectly. That's how you make your character jump, and that's how you apply gravity to your character. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to prevent the camera from going through the walls, which is very simple. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and as always, leave a thumbs up, subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to stay tuned for more. This is Hypershit Tutorials. Thank you so much for watching.